It is the first of the month, and because it's the first of the month, it is time for your Bay Area market update. Every beginning of the month, I like to go over the data so you can see all the transactions that have sold in the past. You can get a sense as to what is likely to occur in the future, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit about a recent transaction so that you can compare yourself. Where do you think it is worth? But I will also give you the answers as to what it ultimately sold for. That way, you can see the pending information, which at the end of the day, all of the things we're going to be looking at is going to be very helpful for you to see the baseline. However, however, it is that past and it does not reflect what will occur, which if you think about it, all the February transactions will show up in March and it's going to blow your mind. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the data, about the stats, what has sold. We're going to talk about the mortgage rates. What can you expect? Where is it going? Where is it likely to keep? Where is it likely to be in the future? We will talk about the general stock market. You can see how that impacts things. We will go over a live scenario. And at the end, I'm going to go over as a buyer, how should you mentally prepare for this time? As a seller, what should you do? Because it just depends on your time horizon to still be able to keep moving forward with your goals. Do not give up, but be mindful and be prepared. And that's why you're tuning in. That's why you should be sharing this with any one of your friends that are buying or selling. That's why you got to reach out to me. Call or text me at 408-547-4590. Contact details are below. Let's get at it. So, in terms of the market data itself, you can take a look. This is Santa Clara County, 12 months completed, right? So it shows the February numbers. It's already inching back up, as you may have seen. If you go to any open houses, you will see that activities definitely has picked up significantly. Prices are on the rise. Keep this in mind. These are numbers from January, right? They're January transactions that ultimately closed in February. This number will be significantly higher when you show the March because that's February transactions. So just be mindful of that. But in general, it's no surprise that it is on the rise for medium home prices. Single family condos and townhome is at currently $1.46 million, kind of blended together. Let's take a look at a few other stats. In general, days to sell, it's going to generally be the same range and same amounts, right? In this case, it's 8 days. It doesn't actually usually change too drastically from there. You can see last month it was at 14, but it generally is pretty consistent. So there's nothing special about this. Typically, it doesn't get much faster, and the only reason is because they try to have an open house on the weekend and then they have an offer deadline. However, if there are opportunities, especially in a hotter market, you need to strongly consider if they will be open for a preemptive offer, right? Because sometimes some sellers are okay with a number, but that number may or may not be what the market is, good or bad. So that's definitely something to strongly consider. But then what that means for you is you got to then look Wednesday, Thursday, and you need to reach out to someone like myself and just engage early on. If you're interested, go see on the weekdays and then determine, are they open for an early offer? Then do all the prep, send the early offer. That's one of the strategies that is needed right now to get a chance. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you is the number of new listings. Like, how is that going relative to the last couple of years? Let's see the stats of that. February, look at this, a huge increase over what has happened last year. That is happened in general, and we will likely continue to see that happening way more than last year because last year, to be fair, were record lows. But if you're still struggling, there may not be much hope for you because you may just be looking in the wrong areas because prices have also been rising. So keep this in mind, right? The numbers are a decent amount lower than 2021, 2022, but it is much higher than last year. I mean, let's do some math together, right? 1271 minus 896, that's an equivalent of 41% more listings than last year. Pretty good, right? You can't ask for too much more. It definitely means a lot more sellers have been willing to sell, but make no mistake, it is still lower than before. And remember, these were still rising home price times. So even though there was more homes, there is and still is today equally, if not significantly more buyers that are ready to go. And we'll talk about why are buyers so active now. There's many very logical reasons, very simple reasons. So this is happening in Santa Clara County, but to be fair, it's kind of happening in every county. So if we take a look at this, the numbers are kind of the same in virtually all counties, right? So if you look at like San Mateo, the number I have in the thumbnail shows shows I just mix a lot of counties together, so you have a kind of a blended average. I showed Santa Clara County mixed with San Mateo, with Alameda, and San Francisco. So you can see San Mateo County, similar trends, nothing unique. They're all a very similar story. Let's take a look at San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is going to be a little bit different because of that they have the condo side of things, but even they have increased, right? Take a look at Alameda, right? What more would you like? I just literally gave you three different examples, three different counties, all the same results, all the same, everywhere in the Bay, the same. And this is happening, right? This is not just happening actually in the Bay; it's happening across the entire country. And so the question is, why is this happening? And it's happening for a couple of reasons. Did mortgage rates actually get much better? Well, let's take a look. The mortgage rates in general are not necessarily better. They're actually worse than the beginning of February. It went from an average of 6.63 to about 6.94. So, in general, the numbers are actually worse than before. So, why is there an increase of price? There's a couple of things. Quick tip in general, we can help you get loans better. So, whether if it's a jumbo, Wells Fargo has been very competitive. You can see even their public rates are lower than what you just saw, and that's for jumbo loans. The other one that you just saw was for conforming loans, right? So that's kind of the average across the country. So number one, the jumbo loans are a lot more attractive, and then you pair that with relationship pricing discounts, it can be brought down even more. So a lot of people have been using Wells Fargo or these lenders when it comes to jumbos. When it comes to conforming side of things, my wife is a mortgage broker. She'll be able to be competitive with a lot of the other rates on that side of things. So that's kind of how we separate it. The big banks are very strong with jumbo. Conforming, they're a lot more similar than my wife's brokerage side of things can help a lot. So you can see the rates are not as bad as advertised, but they're not trending down. So that's not the reason why people are making the moves. The reason why people are making the moves is entirely because of a few things. Number one, primarily is because of the stock market. You can see in general the Nasdaq has hit all-time record highs, and this has been very, very beneficial for a lot of people to be able to take the liquidity of things to be able to move into properties. Now, make no mistake, this is not all Nvidia people. Nvidia people are buying the most expensive houses. To be fair, I mean, just think about it. Like if you own Nvidia stock and you had $100,000 and you just held it for 2 years, you had like $1 million or something. It went up just something ridiculous. Let's just take a look together so you can see the exact numbers, right? Nvidia right now is at 822. So if you owned it just for like a year, you can see like it went up. It went more than this. So much it didn't even show on this graph. So if it started at what 200 something in the beginning of about a year ago, 229 went up 4x. So your $100,000 at Nvidia went up to $400,000, and that was 1 year ago. Now, never mind if you owned it for like a couple of years. Let's say you owned it just even in the end of 2022, 120, 112. Your stock virtually went up 8 times. So it went up 800%, which means your $100,000 of Nvidia is $800,000. And make no mistake, most people had that were at employees at Nvidia have a whole lot more than that. So the people at Nvidia are the ones that are able to easily, easily buy in Los Altos, in Sunnyvale, in Mountain View. So we're not even talking about Nvidia. We're talking about just in general, because in general everybody has a lot more money, right? As long as you're not like just burning a lot of cash on lavish things, you probably should have been accumulating a ton of capital, and a lot of people have. And so that is part of the reason why prices can continue to rise, is because the appraisals of these homes do not matter. People, when they buy a home, a lot of times are putting 40-50% down because you have generally maybe an appraisal risk of 5 or 10%. The price, quite frankly, does not matter anymore. And quite frankly, just because rates are higher does not mean anything, because the loan size is so small when you're putting 50% down. Right? Let's do some math. If you bought a $2 million place and you put $1 million down and you had $1 million loan, well, how much do you think your monthly payments would be? Your monthly payments of that would be like 8,000-9,000 bucks. For people that are dual income, just on your base salary alone, people can afford easily $9,000. And that's why it's happening what it is, right? And this is just the reality of what it is. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying this is the reality. And an average single family. We're not talking about the competitive ones of the single family, of the ones in Saratoga, the ones in Cupertino. Similar story, because there's a lot of people that clearly have a lot more liquidity, right? So it's not about just pure rates. It's about what are other things happening. That's number one. Number two, a lot of people felt like, look, they've accumulated a lot of money over the last few years. It's time to spend, because the reality is the rates are not going down. You just saw what it was. It's actually increasing again. So rather than trying to keep gambling and hoping rates will come because of election or because the inflation numbers are lower, they're saying, look, we waited. The rates are similar as it was for the last 2 years. Stop trying to force rates to go down. If the rates go down, great, refinance. But the good news is your stock, and in general, most stocks, even if you invested in S&P 500, have all hit all-time record highs. So if you've been even passively investing, you would have more money than before. Time to use that money. If you're afraid of your monthly payments, put more money down, shrink the loan amount, and buy something that can work for you, whether it's a condo, townhome, single family. So that is exactly what's going on, right? And so that's precisely why we see what we see. Let's go over a live example of a home that I actually making an offer on for a client. And this is a client that's buying it as a pure investment, not about their primary. They're buying it as a pure investment. But let's take a look at this data together. And you tell me, when you look at these numbers, where this should go. Now, I am taking the most up-to-date stats. And this is how we help determine our clients, help them prepare for an offer. We have access to this backend database, which is called the MLS, but our view has it more of like a grid view versus if you look at Zillow, Redfin, it's just a picture view. So it's not going to be as easy to manipulate as you can see here in terms of viewing the information. But we're going to take the most recent one because at the end of the day, stuff from 2 months ago, it's not as irrelevant. You just have to put a much bigger premium to even be in contention. So when it comes to prices, we're going to just look at the last month at this example. We're going to look even close by, within a half mile of this place, and we're going to look at this property and let's review it together. So let's assume that you knew that there's nothing materially wrong with the disclosures of this home. Of course, we'll always review that separately. But when you look at the numbers, what do you think this home is worth and why? Let's go over this exercise together, right? This is listed at $1 million. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath, 1302 square foot in Livermore. If you look at the home itself, the home is okay, right? As in the condition of the home, it's not like fully remodeled, it's not original, it's kind of in between. The bathrooms are older though. This is probably from something from 30, 40 years ago. So overall, it's a clean home, but it's an older place, not updated. So let's look at these other stats. You look at the next closest nearby. This one's on the market. We're not going to look at that yet. You can see 2 homes sold. One at 1320 Anza, 4-bed, 2-bath, 1512, bigger lot. So for 123. Look at the condition of this one. This one, I would say, somewhat similar condition. They're both like fairly original, kept fine but original. Right, that's option one. That's option one. Take a look at this 4-bed, 2-bath, 1780. So for 1.3. Let's look at the condition of this. Right, this is actually updated and remodeled, much more than the other ones that we saw. Even the bathrooms are. Right, this is more updated, but so for 1.3, closed in February, mid-February. The other one, it closed end of February, so a little bit more recent. But what do you think this goes for? Leave it in the comments below with your guess. Put on your guess. I'll wait a few seconds. Now, to be fair, I don't know the exact number, but I know at least what it went for. So if you guessed $1 million, you'll be way off. If you guessed 105, you'll be way off. If you guessed 1.1, you're still off. Now, if you guessed 1.2, I want to work with you because you got a lot of money and we're gonna buy something together. I don't think it went to 1.2, but it likely went in the probably the mid 1.1s. But the reality of this one is the winner ultimately had potentially an all cash offer for this one, right? So when you're dealing with all cash offers, that is a premium. It's not infinite premium, but it's definitely a premium. Usually the premium is about 1 or 2%, because typically loans right now can close within 20 days. But a cash is like a 7-day close plus maybe 5-day close. And so the question is, would a seller wait 2 weeks for an extra 1 or 2%, which in this case is 10 to 20,000, right? So that's probably the range of where it went. I don't know the exact number of this, but I know like just the level of interest. I think it had like 8 or 9 offers, which makes sense because it's priced. If it's sold anywhere in the mid 1.1s, that's kind of then that's like not unreasonable. We will certainly see when it closes. But if they accepted a clean cash offer, we should probably know this by like next week or so, and then you'll be able to see for yourself, right? So if you saw these stats, the idea about this is still important to see what I sold recently, but it's more important to then put some sort of calibration, right? Okay, these sold at a specific price. You don't just do price per square foot, by the way. That's a disaster move because at the end of the day, the smaller the home size, the higher the price per square foot because it's still an absolute number, right? Like, there's still a minimum to get into a certain area. So that's the way to like factor in and consider the math. But you you don't yeah that's the way you should be factoring it in because there's some relatively small number. Just like if it's a bigger home, you're not going to use a small number price per square foot. Otherwise, people can then consider moving to a Dublin or something like that instead if you're paying that kind of price. But you should be able to get a sense as to what the fair price would be because of the size and condition, but because the market is going up, you also have to factor in, okay, I'm going to be putting in a premium. It could be 3%, it could be 5%, depending on the specific situation at that time in the competition to then be in contention to win, right? So that's typically the strategy that is in place these days. Now, I said I'm going to share with you what you should be doing as a buyer and seller. Number one, as a buyer, let's talk about that first. If you're using lower money down options, it is going to be brutal for you to win anything. And it's going to be brutal because you're going to be likely lose out to those that have higher down payments. You will also have it like the appraisal risk. We need to talk about that separately. So realistically, go for products that are not as competitive. What does that mean? Maybe go for new construction if there is any that exist, because there's no bidding on those. Go for condos and townhomes. The condos and townhomes are not the same as these kind of single families, right? Like that is the strategy. So if you're using a low money down, a VA, an FHA, go for those kind of other alternative solutions. So that's number one. Number two, understand the market. Stop complaining about the market. Understand where are your options going to be. Stop comparing to how much you're paying in rent. That means absolutely nothing. Nobody cares how much you pay in rent. Look at how much things are selling for. Look at the size and decide, are you willing to make that change? If not, it's okay. Focus on condos and townhomes. Get something that you can do today so you can save up and accumulate for something bigger and nicer down the road. Number three, in general, just expect some level of definitely lots of competition, but expect a premium for all homes. So if your budget was 1.2, look at what has sold in the last 2 months and then filter a budget. Put it under 1.1. Where are the homes that have sold under 1.1? And then see those areas. Only focus on those areas, and you'll be successful if you still land at under 1.2. Right? These are the tactics. These are the things to do when it comes to the buy side. Now, when it comes to the sell side, think about it. The people that are selling are wanting to make a move and cash out. How can you argue a better time as a seller than what we have today? Like, what more do you want? You want Nvidia to go to 3 trillion? You want the Nasdaq to keep breaking records? Maybe it'll keep happening, but the reality is it's a very good time for sellers. So if you're thinking about even selling in the next couple of years, how can you argue a better time than now? So prep up your home, work with a specialist like myself, because what are the things you can do? Just because it sells quickly does not mean you can sell for as much as possible, right? So understand, like, work with the top agents, pay the top agent what they're worth, because even though they may be asking for 1% more, that delta is more than 5% is the reality of the net that you gain. And so what are the things you can do? Have a consultation. Should you do any prep work for the home? As in, should you remodel anything? Does it make sense to remodel it? Does it make sense with your timeline? Does figure out staging, work with fantastic interior designers, work with myself on the marketing side, sales side, marketing side, photos, videos, custom videos, magnify why someone should choose your home, why they should fall in love with your home, why they need to visit your home, right? My latest Milpitas listing, by the way, we got in contract in 2 days. We accepted a mind-blowing offer. Everyone in that community is going to be absolutely stunned, and they're going to want to work with me for sure. But that's the thing. Like, we spent a year, not like all day, every day prepping things, but we spoke up from a year ago. We said, look, these are the key things to do. They believed in me. They believed in my team. I have a construction crew. We can remodel the homes, get it prepped. We will pick everything for you, finishes, design style, colors, everything. You just write the check and expect a nice big ROI after that. And that's what happened. So we remodeled the bathroom, we added solar tubes, we did recessed lighting, we did interior paint, we did some backyard remodeling, we did some landscaping, like we did some pressure washing, we did some deep cleaning, we did some staging, we did photos, we did videos, we sold in 2 days, we blew records. Like that's just the part of the recipe, right? So it's important to really focus on how do you net more. And the netting of more is through experience and is through people that do a lot and that can magnify it, like people that are watching it on this channel. So those are all the little nuggets. Hopefully this was helpful. If you want to go over, set up a strategy call, not if you want, set up a strategy call today, 408-547-4590. Send me a text, give me a call. Let's go over a game plan. See you the next one. Bye now.